everybody, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus a little bit of insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is AMC Movie News Editor-in-Chief, John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the AMC Movie News Burbank headquarters.
Whoa. You all right?
Oh, for a second, I thought it was the LA Clippers. Sorry about that. Good to have you guys
here. Boo. Also, here's writer-director John Schnepp.
Who can we get on the case? We need Perry Mason again.
I wish you guys were here to see these conversations that happen before the show starts.
Great time in Atlantic City. I was at the ACBC. It was insane. There was a lot of fun, a lot of chaos. I'll do it again next year. See you guys there.
Also, here's AMC's Christian Harloff.
I would have liked that was a good acting job. At the end of it, I would have liked to seen Lovett's acting. Brilliant. Thank you.
The box office results
Oh, wait,
are...
no,
they're not.
wait.
Okay,
Actually,
we're pumping the brakes.
Hold the presses.
Okay.
Stop the presses. Breaking news. I don't know if I call it breaking news, but as you guys know, sometimes after we get the show notes done for all these lovely topics you see here, of which Ashley was, jumping the gun to just get into because she's so excited about the show.
She wants to get to the news.
Something dropped, and we debated about whether we should do it today or hold off tomorrow. We thought, let's talk about it right now. As you know, a film that we're all pretty excited about this coming out, Warcraft. The first official image from Warcraft has been dropped, and it's of Ogrim. And hot damn, does he look awesome. He looks so good as a guy who has played Warcraft. Remember, just a picture. Movie might suck. I get it. But as far as that picture goes, a guy who's spent far too many precious hours that I have in my ticking clock we call life, playing various incarnations of the Warcraft game. I look at that picture, man, and I get excited. He looks so good. I'm just very, very excited about this. Bodes well. Even like all the little actions, like the severed paw he's got hanging over his shoulder, the battle scars he's got scratched, the teeth, everything looks so good. I'm very excited for it. Anyway, Christian, you just saw the picture for the first time. What did you think?
Yeah, I like the picture a lot. I think the fact that Duncan Jones doing this fantasy film in general is just
so awesome.
It's so awesome. I'm a big fan of both Moon, and I really like Source Code a lot. And to see what he's doing next and taking these the progression of him is great. So to see this picture of Ogrim, it's awesome. The only thing that I'm worried about is once he's actually moving around. Is it going to be like the Lord of the Rings type of, when they put the ogres, the orcs, when they put the orcs in that, the costumes, it looked great. And then in The Hobbit, then it was all CGI, and it was like, is this going to be CGI, or are you going to have a lot of performance capture to where, I don't know. But we're talking about the image itself. I think it looks pretty spectacular.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be almost all CGI, but I think it looks really good. I mean, especially a player of the old school overhead Warcraft, where it's like researching spells. It's like Death and Decay. I don't want to crisp this guy up. I want to see him run around and smash heads. It looks it's exciting, and finally seeing something from Warcraft. I'm tired of just looking at like here's a weapon from Warcraft. Like a weird mallet or something. This is like
here's a clan symbol from Warcraft.
And I don't want any more of that. This is where the right way to start like releasing images from the film and characters from the film. So it's exciting to me.
And I think getting back to the question that you raised, I think a lot of those questions are going to be answered when we see the first trailer.
Definitely.
And no idea. Now, I'm not saying it's coming, but a lot of times in this business we found that after an official image is released or an official first teaser poster or something like that, it's usually like within 48 hours that like a teaser trailer drops or something. I'm not saying that's the case here because this just is a still from the film. It's not like it's a poster, but who knows? I have no idea when we're going to get the first teaser, but I'm so excited for it because I think it's going to tell us a lot. All right, what is the first official story today?
All right, the box office results are in, and it looks like Mad Max got pitch slapped. Oh! The sequel to the surprise hit Pitch Perfect exceeded expectations and took the #1 spot at the box office with a staggering $70.3 million opening weekend. To put this into perspective, the original Pitch Perfect made just $65 million in its entire domestic theatrical run and just $14 million on its opening weekend. Mad Max Fury Road took the #2 position, making a respectable $44.4 million, and is expected to have good legs with overwhelmingly positive critic reviews. In third spot is Avengers Age of Ultron Tron making $38.8 million, bringing its domestic total up to $372 million in just its third weekend. In fourth spot is the Reese Witherspoon comedy Hot Pursuit, making $5.7 million, and rounding out the top 5 is Paul Blart 2, making $3.6 million. John, what stands out to you about this weekend's box office results?
Wow, Pitch Perfect. The first one makes 14-something million on its opening weekend. The second one makes 70.3 million on its opening weekend. You know, it's funny. I think it was with Mark Ellis was on the show, and we were talking about the chances Mad Max has of topping Avengers at the box office. And we all said, yeah, probably will. Avengers is going to be in its third weekend. It'll probably top that. And then it came up, you know, we shouldn't discount Pitch Perfect 2. And we're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't think Pitch Perfect 2 is going to beat Mad Max, but you can't discount it. To a lot of big positive word of mouth. Fandango reported that it was actually outselling Mad Max in advance ticket sales, which is sometimes a good indicator, sometimes not so much. But 70.3 million for its opening weekend. I mean, it crushed everything. Just absolutely crushed everything. I was hoping for better results for Mad Max for its first weekend, but I guess it shouldn't be all that surprising. We're talking about a film franchise whose last film came out how many years? 30 years ago. It is an R-rated film, so maybe our expectations were a little bit unrealistic, but I do agree that I think because of how overwhelmingly positive word of mouth critics' reviews are, this movie is going to, I believe it's going to make more than 22 million next weekend. I think it's going to have less than the traditional 50% drop from first weekend to second weekend. So don't discount Mad Max just yet because, like I said, the reviews are so overwhelmingly good. The experience is so good in the theater. So I say hang in there, but man, Pitch Perfect. Anyway, Christian, what do you think?
Well, I did think Pitch Perfect would beat Mad Max, but I thought by like 5 million. That's really what I thought it was going to be, like 45 million and then like 50. But first, I looked at Mad Max first. Everyone who's saying that it's bombing, stop.
That's ludicrous.
It's silly. This movie is rated R. It's not the movie, and it also was cannibalized from Avengers. That's the same audience. They chewed off each other. Pitch Perfect had none of that audience. It was teenage girls. It was women who liked the first one. It was couples, and they went to see the movie and in droves apparently.
Yeah.
My God, $70 million. That's the most shocking thing for sure. If you would have told me 60, I would have been like, whoa, $70 million? I mean, that's incredible. But yeah, and the other thing is what stands out to me the most is when you did the notes that you actually listed the Reese Witherspoon comedy. I don't know if it's comedy.
Can it be called a comedy?
No,
There are no laughs.
but yeah, those are the two that stand out.
Schnepp.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of comedies this week. I mean, a fat guy on a Segway. You know, the two gals running away from fat guy on a Segway. And it's like, and then of course Pitch Perfect is also a comedy. So I don't know. I'm surprised that Avengers is still making so much money. That's not a failure. It's making it with 38 million
on its third weekend.
On its third weekend, that's insane amounts of money. So I don't know. I don't see Mad Max as being a failure either. I think 44 million for a movie like that no one's even really familiar with any of the other three films because of the way things work, time and such. So I'm really happy for it, and the word of mouth and the positive reviews. I mean, the thing that puzzles me is like how many people are coming. Like some men's group is like, it's a feminist movie. So I mean, the silliest stuff I was reading this weekend. I was like, wow, the internet really does like you lift up a weird rock and you're like, oh, those things exist. Put the rock back,
Yeah, it is crazy. You know what? I think for a lot of people who are now saying, oh my, why is Mad Max bombing? Remember, most of the predictions that were out there, most of the forecasts out there called for Mad Max to make somewhere between 40 and 60. So it's in there. This isn't shocking a lot of people. I think the shock was how much Pitch Perfect made.
It was tracking at 35.
Oh, jeez.
That's nuts.
Wow.
So, I mean, nobody should be shocked about the results. I think people are just more shocked that I think the people are shocked right now at Mad Max only making 44. You know what? If Pitch Perfect had made 39, then nobody would be worried about how much Mad Max. I think they're only getting worried because of the illusion that's created because of how much Pitch Perfect made. Don't worry about Mad Max. Mad Max is fine. You know what? Next weekend, a lot of the guys who were dragged out to go see Pitch Perfect. I shouldn't say dragged out. I like the first Pitch Perfect. I like that one. So don't get me wrong, but I think you were right. There are a lot of couples who went to go see Pitch Perfect this weekend. And I think the trade-off is going to be the guys are not going to say to their girls, okay, now you come with me this week and we're going to go see Mad Max. So I think Mad Max is not going to make 40 million next weekend. It's going to drop, but I don't think it's going to drop below that 50% ratio that most films normally do.
The only reason why it might drop that big is because you have Tomorrowland coming also.
Well,
and
that's true.
Those
That's
are
a
all
good
three
point.
of those movies now. Avengers, Tomorrowland, and Mad Max. They all have the same audience. But I think what Mad Max has the capability of doing is what Kingsman did.
Yes.
And
Repeat viewing.
Be in that top 5 for like 7 weeks.
That's all you have to do. Just stay in there. Even if it's making 15, 10, 20, just like nip. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, look how much money. I guarantee you that in like a month or two, we're going to be talking about Mad Max, about how much it ultimately made because it stayed in
I
there.
agree with you. It's just the word of mouth where people, including myself, are like, I have to see it again.
Well,
I
that's
just can't
the
wait
key.
to
I
see
wanna
it
see it
again,
again, dude.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us who saw it are planning on seeing it again multiple times. And I didn't even love it as much as most people, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. And I told my wife as we were leaving, we're going to go see this again. And when we go again, we're going to be dragging along other people, friends of ours who haven't seen it yet because we're like, you got to come see this. So you're right. The Tomorrowland factor is a definite elephant in the room. It's going to be a big factor, but I also think that return thing. So I'm going to guess like a 40 to 45% drop. This is my guess. Watch, you're going to be totally right and it's going to get crushed. All right, what's next?
A piece of footage has leaked online from the set of the upcoming DC film Suicide Squad, in which we see a normally dressed Harley Quinn being confronted by a very club-stylish Joker getting out of a purple Lamborghini with a license plate that reads, ha ha ha. The Joker is also sporting the traditional green hair and white face. Schnepp, what is your reaction to this video and image?
I love what I'm seeing with Suicide Squad. Every picture I see, I like the film more. Like, this is like such a great departure from the other filmed Jokers, the cinematic Jokers.
Yeah.
Yet it feels just like the Joker. And that's what's so great about the character, the Joker, and the character Batman is there can be so many different iterations done from different actors with different styles and takes, different directors. Yet if they get it right, and it feels like this is getting a portion of it right, the kind of Joker that I like, the Frank Miller Joker, the crazy, creepy Joker, the funny Joker, the murdering Joker. And then you see Harley Quinn outside of her outfit. Some people are conjecturing, is it a flashback? We don't know what the story is, but it just looks great to me. So I don't know if we're not buying or selling it yet, but I fully buy it anyway. So
I really like the image. It's a little bit, it raises a lot of questions, good questions though. But when I see this picture, one of the things that stands out to me the most is this is the closest to the Cesar Romero Joker as far as pure look goes that we've ever had. And you know what? Some people guffaw when you bring up the Cesar Romero Joker. Okay, you put in a modern edge, right, with that Cesar Romero Joker, with what an actor like Leto can bring, that could be one hell of a badass Joker. But we were joking around in the studio here. When I saw the video and I saw him in those clothes in that car, I said, I felt like this was a DC version of Night at the Roxbury. I felt like any minute I was going to hear, what is love? Don't hurt.
he should be playing that when the door opens.
How awesome would that
be?
be?
Insane.
If he was playing that when he got out of the
Except
car.
he shoots somebody when he gets out.
That would be even better. Yeah.
And I mean, as far as the Harley Quinn looks go, I don't think this is flashback. She's sporting the gun and all that kind of stuff. So obviously she's already kind of crossed the line, I think. But I think that's going to be what we get with Harley Quinn in this movie. I think we've already heard there's going to be a lot of different costume changes. Why not someone she's just out of costume? And if that's the case, I kind of dig it. I love the ha 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 on the car.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. If anything, what is really standing out to me, not just with this picture, but a lot of others, this is truly going to be the most unique Joker I think we've ever seen. I'm dying to see what AR's got in store for us. What do you think?
The most unique, you think? Even more so than Heath Ledger?
Well, when you're considering what we've already had.
Right.
And now I think this is going to be such a departure from any Joker we ever had.
I agree with that
yeah.
for sure. Just that Heath Ledger to me was pretty unique when he popped out. But
absolutely it was.
But you're right. You took the words right out of my mouth when you said the Cesar Romero thing. But Cesar Romero you have to realize what he was in that campy, schlocky version there.
Yes.
He shined. I mean, everyone remembers what he did. And I would absolutely love to see that edge in that look. And it looks like that's what you're getting there. And even with the face, like, right there. I think it could be a flashback, or maybe when she was recruited by the Joker the first time they met, she could still be on the edge.
Yep.
She could still, we don't know what
maybe
her
she's
character,
carrying a gun for protection.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe this, but then again, maybe they've had a breakup and he's coming back to court her again.
Maybe she helped him break him out, and then he just dropped her.
Right,
And then
yeah.
she's showing up like, I thought we had something. It could be one of those.
I'm getting excited. We could talk all show now just about what this could possibly be.
Whatever it is, though, it's cool to finally see the Joker and Harley Quinn together on screen. We haven't seen that yet in live action, anyway. So this is exciting. I'm digging it.
But also going back to that Cesar Romero thing, picture that old Cesar Romero, but then pulling out a scalpel and slicing somebody's throat. like that.
Horrifying.
That could be horrifying. Exactly. All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. And then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
The last Apes film, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, took in over $708 million at the worldwide box office and received critical and audience praise. Now, according to Collider, it looks like we have the title for the third film in the series, War of the Planet of the Apes. The new film is set to take place not long after the events of the previous films and will focus on the rise of Caesar from leader of the apes to the iconic legend he becomes. War of the Planet of the Apes is scheduled to hit AMC theaters on July 14, 2017. Christian Bauer saw the title of War of the Planet of the Apes.
Apes on tanks. Apes on tanks. Yeah, I buy it. It makes sense. It's what it leads up to. It's when that last shot of Caesar leaving and there's more humans coming. It's going to be a bigger war between the apes, the humans, more apes. I think Koba survived somehow. You might see him come back. And it makes sense. You have to have the War of the Planet of the Apes and Caesar becoming this legend that he was. Whether or not this is the end of this particular trilogy, and if it spawns into something else, who knows? But I want to see the War of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, this sounds like the film that a lot of us maybe thought we were going to get in the first one. You know, the first one, The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, right. We thought this is going to show how the apes came to power. And the movie's great. I loved it for what it was, but it wasn't what I was expecting. But because we didn't get that, we just kind of got the spark of how apes first got intelligent and kind of started organizing. Then we go to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and we see apes on horses with guns. Now we're going to see when the apes take over the world. And we didn't get that. Awesome movie on its own. It's sometimes what you weren't expecting is better than what you were expecting. But now we're in the third film. It's time to get down to the business of showing us the apes taking over the world. It is time for that. And I've been dying to see it. I remember Andy Serkis in an interview about a year ago was talking about how the next one's either going to take place like the day after or within 5 years after. And we're going to see how, Caesar becomes this mythical icon that the apes revere like 1,000 years later. So I love the title. It makes sense. It makes a promise that we're going to get that movie that I think we've always been wanting to get. And I'm super stoked for it. For me, it's a buy.
Yeah, they couldn't really just call it The Lawgiver or something,
Right.
too referential. And also, what's a Dusk of the Planet of the Apes? They just had to be like, all right, it's war, and everyone's doing Infinity
Mixed genres
Wars.
call it Twilight of the Planet of the Apes.
I don't know.
Got to get that word
Yeah,
back.
I like the title and excited that they finally locked it down, that it's coming out in 2 years. So it means all the gears are moving forward to actually getting the third one going. So it's a good title.
All right, what's next?
Not many people saw the 2011 comedy Goon, starring Seann William Scott, Jay Baruchel, and Liev Schreiber, but those who did loved it. The Hollywood Reporter is now claiming that a sequel to the film is going into production, which will be called Goon: Last of the Enforcers, and will be directed by Jay Baruchel in his directorial debut. John Byer saw that they're making another Goon movie.
I got to buy it, and I'm shocked. I think the first one made like $4 million domestically and maybe $6 million overall. So the fact that they're bringing it back to do another one, I guess they also may have made the movie for bus fare. And if they can make the second one for like cab fare, and I think because of positive word of mouth, a lot of people picked up on it. I think this movie could arguably make 10, 11, 12 million and actually make a tidy little profit. I loved the look. I'm Canadian, so anything hockey related, I'm going to get excited about. But I did love the look at the enforcer culture. And the fact that they're going to call this new one The Last of the Enforcers is a reflection about the enforcer is almost gone completely out of the NHL these days. So having a movie like this kind of reflect that, I'm excited about it. Now, as far as Jay directing it, always curious to see a performer we like first stepping behind the camera. Sometimes we've seen it work in spades, like Ben Affleck. Many times we've seen it not work so well. Let's see how this works. This is a good film for him, though, to cut his teeth on. Super low budget. It's a film franchise he's already familiar with because he starred in it. This is a perfect movie for him to start with. So I am going to give it a buy. Schnepp?
Did he have anything to do with writing the first one?
I cannot remember. I will look that up.
I buy it. We had just talked about The Goon a couple weeks ago when we were talking about sports movies. And that's one of my favorite sports movies. It's really fun. What's the main guy's name again?
Seann William Scott.
Seann William Scott.
And to interrupt just for a second, yeah, he and Evan Goldberg did write
That's
it.
what I thought.
Yep.
I thought he was in, it wasn't like he's just jumping on to direct it. I mean, he was, so I think he wrote this second one too and was like, hey, look, I want to see this through. And I think it's a really worthy of a sequel. It probably did really well on VOD, or it didn't do that great in the theaters, but then it just had that, like, people kept talking about it, and then I finally saw it once it was on, like, it might have been on Netflix or something, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm happy to see a second return to this character and see what's going to happen next.
How good was Liev Schreiber in that movie?
Oh, he was amazing.
Wasn't he great in that?
He was fantastic.
I buy it as well too. Just to hear the stories on set. Hey, now can you punch him in the face? But no, if you haven't seen Goon, by the way, see that movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be some silly, goofy comedy, like Will Ferrell type thing. It's the best Sean William Scott's ever been.
Yep.
I don't disagree. I think you're right. Yeah.
You see his dramatic chops in there, and you see, because there are funny moments. It's not Happy Gilmore.
No.
You could easily think that it's going to be a Happy Gilmore.
It's not dumb comedy.
No, it's not. And when the comedy hits, it hits. Pun intended. And when you're watching this, you see that these guys involved, Evan Goldberg and Jay and Sean William Scott, they cared about this material. So if Jay is not only returning to write it and is now directing it, it means because they really believe in the project, they want to do it, because, like you said, it didn't make any money, really.
Right.
Yeah.
But they believe in the story, or know that enough is there. It's not a cash grab, obviously. They're doing it because they want to continue the story. So how do you not buy that?
And that's also one of those things that, even if the second one isn't a giant success, it'll find its audience like the first one and even be more successful. So it's one of those kinds of films.
All right, what's next?
In a recent interview with Variety, Academy Award-winning actor Matthew McConaughey revealed that he has been in talks with both Marvel and DC about a potential superhero character for him. McConaughey said the following: "I've read some Marvel and DC script, and I've talked about working with them on some scripts, none of which I'll share with you what they are or were. Yeah, I've circled some of those. Nothing has been right for me yet, but I'm sure open to it. It's very simple for me. I look at the script. Is the opportunity exciting? Is the money that comes with it exciting? Sure. Is it the possibility of going, hey, you can get on a train and it can be a franchise and you can do 3, 4, and 5 and have a great time as some kind of superhero or antihero? But I would also look at something like that and say, hey, in success, that means you are on the train for a while. Contractually, you're going to return to the character over and over. It's something I ask myself, is it something I'd want to return to? Would I be excited to go back and put the shoes on the character again? Going and doing the press tour with that group of people again? I always ask myself those questions again. It starts with the story and the character." Schnapp Byersell, his comments.
I wholeheartedly buy them. I mean, it sounds like he really put a lot of thought into it. He's a methodical type of guy, and it makes sense. Everything he said is what I would expect a great actor like himself to think when they're approached by any kind of material, albeit a superhero film, a crime drama, or a love story or comedy. It's like, what is this about? How am I going to be able to impact it? What can I bring to it? Not even thinking about sequels, but now you have to actually think about that with these, like, 1 million year contracts or whatever, where you're like, hey, you're going to be in 9 more films. You're going to commit to this character because that's what we're doing now. We're creating this overall world. So for McConaughey to think that way and think it through, it just shows you whatever role he takes, I'll be excited to hear what it's going to be. Conjecture wise, I started thinking, like, what role could he possibly play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that hasn't been taken already? Because most of the big guns have already been adapted. So I was like, well, if they're going to keep going cosmic, it might make sense. It probably wouldn't be the Warlock that we know, but I'd say Warlock could be a really interesting role, redone and retold with McConaughey as Warlock. For DC, that's even a slightly tougher one. I was thinking through it. It's like, boy, what about him as like Hawkman? That would be crazy. Like Thanagarian, all that kind of stuff. It'd be crazy. So
I wholeheartedly buy his comments. I think he said several really smart, revealing, and honest things. Let's start with the first thing. I always laugh when these liar actors say, for me, it's not about the money. BS. I love that McConaughey strikes up. Hey, I'm asking, is the role exciting and is the money exciting?
Right.
It's his job. Which one of you, if you were a plumber, say, hey, I could take this plumbing job for $40,000 a year, or I could take that plumbing job for $275,000 a year. Don't tell me money's not a part of it. It's his job. It's his career. It's how he earns his living. Mm-hmm. So I love the fact that he said that. But the other thing is that he did touch on this whole thing about, the big issue that you have to take into is the fact that you are contractually, doesn't matter how good you are. Marvel's not going to sign you to a 1-film deal. It does not matter how many Oscars you have on your shelf. DC is not going to sign you to a 1-film deal. They want you committed and locked down for 4, 5, or 6 films. And, a lot of people will bemoan that and say, well, that's why, Doctor Strange lost Joaquin Phoenix. Okay, maybe, but guess what? As a fan of those comic book cinematic universes, I want to know that the filmmakers are not going to have their hands cuffed. That, okay, we got this guy, but we only got him for one film, and then we're going to have to try to renegotiate after the one film, and then maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Now, creatively, they have to make decisions based on whether the actor's going to come back. They have to make creative decisions based on that. They have to make financial decisions based on that. You know what? I would have loved to have seen Joaquin Phoenix as Doctor Strange. Would have loved it. But you know what? We got a pretty damn good one anyway, who did step up and sign the deal to be contractually obligated for a number of films. And I think that's the more important fact here. And so I love the fact that McConaughey's cognizant of that. I love the fact that he's talking about it. He's reflecting on it. And if he signs up, then we who are fans of his, if he does sign up to be Hawkman, then people who are Hawkman fans can rest assured and know, okay, we don't have to worry about him just doing a one and done. That means he probably signed for the long haul. And that's a good thing. So I love his comments.
Yeah, a big buy for me as well, too, like you said, because of the honesty. And you also got to remember where McConaughey is in his career, where he was in his career.
Yeah.
If you rewind about 5 years ago into talking to him, he'd probably have signed 5 minutes ago. But the fact of where he is now, he's able to. And like you said, going back to your analogy with having a job, you get to a place in your career to where you're allowed to weigh out those options.
Yeah.
And you should look at the money and whether or not you want to take that job for X amount of years, or is that going to maybe now what can I not do now because I signed this career? Like there might be, he's had a few roles. He had Dallas Buyers Club and Interstellar. He's had movies to where he's really shown that what he can do as an actor, and he might be able to do that in another role in a big superhero movie too, to where it's another character. But how many movies can you do that for? He wants to know. I understand that. I think it makes sense that he would say things like that. I just like, what I loved most about it is that he's weighing out the options, looking at it, wants to find the right role. And I read everything when I read this in his voice. Like you could hear him saying,
"Oh yeah, you totally hear him."
As if he was talking about a Lincoln.
Money, right? All right.
The pauses, the way he's just moving his
He's
head.
looking off in the distance as he's saying it.
And
it's about how exciting the money is.
Right, exactly. All right, but and he drives off in a Lincoln. I think that for me, and it's not just because, well, yeah, it's because I want everything to relate back to Star Wars. I'd actually like to see him do something in not only Star Wars but maybe even Star Trek or something along those lines, because I actually think there's more opportunities for him to do stuff in the Star Wars.
I don't ever want to see Matthew McConaughey in a Star Wars movie.
I agree.
I don't
absolutely agree.
See, and mainly because you said it. No, just kidding.
No,
I would.
why? Because it would take you out of it. Because it would take you out of it, right? Because you
I think
see
it would.
McConaughey.
I think it would take me out of it a little bit, the way Samuel L. Jackson took me a little bit out of those prequels, just because he's such an iconic actor that when he's now in such an iconic movie, it's just a little. It was just a little too much.
I get it, but I mean, the only thing with
I like
that,
him as Mace Windu.
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you he needs to be a lead too. Because Alec Guinness was pretty known when he was in different
only
ways,
one.
but
he was the only. Him and
True.
Peter Cushing, who was
I'm
not
just saying
even.
it can work because, and I don't want him to be a Jedi or something. He if he was flying around in a spaceship as a smuggler or something along those lines, or even in something like Star Trek, he's got the ability to do it. I agree. The star power is going to hurt that, but. Going back to your Warlock thing, well, I think that's where I think that Warlock's going to turn out to be Star-Lord's father, and that could work right there.
I mean, I'm all for it if he's like some kind of a smuggler in a Star Wars universe. If he's flying the Millennium Lincoln, if he's flying that, then I'm okay. But here, simple question though. If it was up to you guys, totally up to you guys, and you could say, take character out of it. We can drop Matthew McConaughey either in a Marvel Cinematic Universe or the DC Cinematic Universe. Where do you want him to end up? Schnapp.
I want him in the DC universe.
DC.
I'm also going to say DC because I just think that's the best fit for him. Yeah. All right, folks, we've reached that. No, we got one more buy. We have a bonus buy or sell today. We got one extra buy or sell today. What is it?
The first teaser for the upcoming biopic Steve Jobs has released online. The film stars Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs, Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen, and Jeff Daniels, and is directed by Academy Award-winning director Danny Boyle. Steve Jobs is set to hit AMC theaters on October 9th. Christian buyers sell this first teaser for Steve Jobs.
It's a teaser. I buy it. Especially knowing all the nightmares that this project has gone through. And,
oh my
and
goodness.
then the second Universal got it. It's like boom, 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 boom. Right. There's a real movie. That movie looks good. Yeah. Walter Isaacson's book that everyone was talking about is finally being made a movie. There's Jobs as Fassbender, and you hear all the stuff in the background or what he does. Because I've read the book, so to hear like the beats in the book kind of coming through that little monologue, and then seeing the back as you cut through and you see Winslet and you see Seth Rogen, they're all sitting there watching him, and then just that shot of him. It's a movie that I've wanted to see for a very long time. It's got that Sorkin feel to it, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I buy it.
Look, I have to buy this. I really did enjoy it. And despite all the drama, and we are all familiar with all the drama this movie has gone through, at the end of the day, it's a movie written by Aaron Sorkin, directed by Danny Boyle, starring Michael Fassbender. Are you kidding me? I'm so excited about this. And I thought the teaser was a perfect teaser for a thing like this. And I liked the devices they use about just seeing him on stage, hearing all the dialogue stuff in the background. It was very effective. And then he turns and you see his face. The one line that I love that I think is going to be really indicative of the whole film is when you hear Jobs say, artists lead, hacks ask for a show of hands. That embodies Steve Jobs. That totally embodies Steve Jobs. I really enjoyed the trailer, so for me, it's a big buy.
Yeah, and also had some irony because then the show of hands with everybody clapping. Like, there's like kind of I love this teaser because they don't really show you that much, but they give you that taste of Danny Boyle. Like Danny Boyle is such a great director that I mean, even with a movie like Trance, which was horrible, it had some really cool cinematic moments and directorial moments. But unfortunately, the film. But he's done so many great films that I feel like this is going to be another one that it was a missed opportunity for some of the other directors who were involved. He grabbed that and he's taken it all the way. So it feels like it's going to be a great film. And at first, when I heard Fassbender was playing Jobs, I was like, come on, he's in everything, and he doesn't look like Jobs. But I want to emphasize what a great actor Fassbender is. Not just he's a good looking dude, but he's an incredible actor. And just seeing him in that image as Jobs, he emotes Jobs just from the way he's holding his face. It feels like Jobs. Like every time I've seen Jobs do all those keynote speeches, that feels like him. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it may not look bang on like him. And that's why I always say, like, building off your point, is that I really don't care if they get a guy who looks exactly like the one they're doing. Because you know who looked like Steve Jobs? What's his face? Demi Moore's ex. Kutcher. Yeah, he looked just like Steve Jobs, and look how that turned out. The question is not going to be, does he look like Steve Jobs? The question is going to be, once you're 5 minutes into the film, do you buy that this is Steve Jobs? And I think the answer is going to be yes.
I'll tell you what he could do with that picture is he could make a Dave sequel. It looks like Kevin Kline.
He does look like Kevin Kline. Yeah. Holy crap, that's good. All right, folks, now we have reached that part of the show for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, just email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Let's see if we can get your question on the show. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Rajat Saini writes, Hi, AMC Movie Crew. I have heard John say that all movies are subjective and everyone's review/score of the movie is also subjective. So what makes professional critic reviews better / more credible than anyone else's review of the movie? Thanks for answering my question. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, all film is subjective. That is my religious mantra about all of films. It's all subjective. So it's a great question. Well, then why, read movie critics or why watch movie critics or anything like that? What makes them more credible? It's not so much an issue of credibility, whatever, but here's what it comes down to for me, okay? Let's say I'm a sports fan, which I am, and I want to hear a breakdown and an analysis of last night's basketball game. I can go to my friend Christian, who maybe watches 5 basketball games a year, and his opinion, because, whether you liked or disliked the game, that's subjective too. So his opinion is every bit as valid as some dude from ESPN. His opinion is every bit as valid. But I know he watches like 5 games a year. Or I can go to my friend Schnepp, who actually works for ESPN and watches
every game
and watches in excess of 70 to 100 games per year.
And the pregame and the postgame as well.
Absolutely. He interviews the cheerleaders. Yeah. He knows everything about it. Now, his opinion is no more truly valuable or credible, whatever, than Christian's. But I myself, for me, I'm going to want to hear the analysis from the guy who is immersed in this, who watches more of it. Let me put it this way too. Let's talk about the world of video games. Let's say there's a new game coming out and you're trying to decide whether to get it or not. And there's one of 2 voices you can listen to. Your buddy Christian, who buys maybe 2 games a year and just plays those, and you like his opinion. Or, Schnepp, who works at IGN, and plays in excess of like 30 to 40 games per year.
Sometimes 80.
Sometimes 80 games per year. So it's still subjective because it's an experience about playing the game. And that becomes subjective. It's still subjective. But for me personally, I'm going to give a lot more weight to the guy who immerses himself into video games, has a broader spectrum in his vision about what games are out there and how they play and how they compare and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to happen to listen to that guy a little bit more than I listen to my other friend, even though it's all subjective. I would say the same thing about films. I think everybody's personal opinion is completely valid. There's nothing that's not subjective about the experience. But when I'm trying to decide whether or not a movie is worth going to, I will more likely, even though I'll listen to my friends whose opinions I respect, I will also probably give a little bit more of my ear to the guys who watch 70, 80, 90, 100 films a year than I will to the guy who goes to the movie about 7 times. At the end of the day, though, it is all subjective, and it's about what works for you and who you should listen to. But you asked me the question, so that's my simple answer. Anyway, Schnepp, how do you see it?
No, I agree. I mean, I think nowadays, especially with the internet, everyone's a critic. I mean, there's a million people that you can get their opinions on stuff. So why people would go to someone like Christian or yourself or myself or anybody who does web shows or critics that have been printed for years online, why we watched Roger Ebert when we were younger, it's because you're looking for someone who not is smarter than you, but someone who might have a little bit more of an ability to be like, hey, if you like these films that I've seen that maybe you haven't, and I could put them all on the same plate, I could then level it up a little bit. I could say, this is a little bit better than this, and this one, if you like my opinion on this one. So it's also based on time. Like, I've heard this person's opinion on all these other films, and I agree with them on their opinion on all these other things, so I'm going to stick with their opinion on the future things. So you build trust with an audience. So that's the difference between someone who's like a vocal critic or a person who just talks about films or any kind of entertainment or media on a scale like what we do, because we're talking to a lot of people as opposed to you having a conversation with your friends. Your friends aren't invalidated. It's just they're not vocal and talking to thousands and thousands of people. So, and also, we don't know your friends. So,
Christian, what do you think?
Well, Schnepp nailed it too. For me, it's like, well, Mark.
By the way, the first ever YouTuber verified on Rotten Tomatoes as a film critic was Christian and Mark. So you have a particular point of view on this.
Well, yeah, because the thing was, Mark and I started doing this 7-8 years ago because we wanted to put the voice out there of people who just talked about movies and just like said, listen, we're going to go see it the same way the three of us would go see a movie, and then we talk about it afterwards. That's what we wanted to do online, because it's not that the other critics that were writing and everything were wrong. It's just sometimes certain critics felt like they were kind of talking down to you and saying, if you don't listen to this, then you don't know film. And I think the game has changed in general with, especially what we're doing here. Yeah. I mean, even from Talking News, you're right. It is building that trust with your audience. And I think that there's nothing wrong with you going to your friend. If you maybe you watch a review that we do or myself and Mark do, and you go, well, I don't know, that particular movie that they watched that they reviewed last week, I actually really liked, and they didn't like it. So let me ask Joe, and Joe who did like that. And it just depends. You can still watch people you find entertaining, see their points, and going back to John's point is because we all go and see movies so much, we have point of references for a lot of things, and we can compare things. So it's like it's just building up that repertoire of stuff that you know. And like John said before, and Schnepp said, it's trust. It's like, who do you want to watch this? Nobody's right or wrong. That's the one thing. It's like, you guys are wrong. That movie was great. To you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To me, I didn't think it was great, or the opposite. I mean, there are tons of movies that we've all gotten flack for that have said like, movie was terrible. You're terrible. Your whole hometown's terrible. Yeah. Comes with the job.
I can't believe you said that.
Your mother accepted money for sex.
That's where it comes down to.
Yeah, it does. You reminded me of something when you brought up Ebert. Roger Ebert is my all-time favorite film critic, and I hardly ever agreed with him.
I know.
I hardly ever agreed with him.
Big argument.
So then why was he my favorite film critic? Because of the other thing that you should look for in any critics you happen to listen to. Their ability to effectively communicate. That is a big thing. I loved reading Roger Ebert's reviews, even more so than I liked watching him when he did his show. I loved reading Roger Ebert's reviews because even when he was talking great about a movie that I hated and I thought was terrible, he would bring up such valid points and at least give me new questions to ask, new ideas, new thoughts, whatever. And to understand, like, here's the other thing. I would still walk away from hating the movie that I hated, but hearing his other points kind of helped me understand why I hated the movie I did or why I loved the movie that he hated. Whereas I've got friends of mine whose opinions I trust, but I'll say, hey, how good was that movie? Oh, it was effing awesome, my buddy would say. I say, really? Why? Because it's effing awesome. Okay, that's great. Right. But I mean, I really value listening to really good communicators sometimes, like a really great communicator like a Christian or Mark or Schnepp and stuff like that, who really know how to convey not just that they like or dislike, but convey the fullness of what they liked and didn't like and why they liked and didn't like it. And I think there's value in that.
I also think it's passion and honesty.
Yeah,
that comes to a bit. I mean, even if you passionately hate something, if you but not just it sucks. Why? Right. Because. His face. What? Face. Like, give me a reason why. So if you can put reasons out there for love or hate and connecting, and it's a fun thing though. The way you can, how much you see it though from doing this, everything we do, what movies mean to people. It's incredible. So anyway.
All right, folks, listen, not only do we like taking your questions via the mailbag, we love taking your questions via Twitter as well. So if you've got a question in a Twitter account and you want to tweet one to us, just tweet out a question and put in the hashtag AMC Movie Talk. That way we can see it. So, Ashley, what do we got in the Twitter sphere today?
Greg St. Clair writes, if they made the Hulk smarter, would it be easier to make Hulk films?
Yes, but I think it's a double-edged sword. I really love the Hulk they've got going right now in the cinematic universe, the way he is. And I think because he is the way he is, it makes what he does that much more impactful, I think. Like that moment, no, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but let's just say that it's because he is the way he is, when he does certain things on screen, it has more impact and more value, I think. And also, look, a lot of people, including me, have been calling to the high heavens for give us a standalone Hulk film, but I think Marvel has been so smart to not listen to the fans in that regard, because you know what? The way they use him, I think right now, is probably the most effective way you can possibly use him. I think the way they use him right now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been fantastic. He does present a problem as a standalone film. He really does, because who's going to fight the Hulk? Unless you bring back the Abomination, I mean, really, who's going to fight the Hulk? So the way they're using him right now, I think has been great. And so you could say, make him smarter, make him like Gray Hulk, right? Like what was his nickname?
Mr. Fix-It?
Mr. Fix-It. When he's like the Las Vegas mobster dude. He had the suit on, everything. Yeah, you could do something like that. But I think that actually ultimately takes away a lot from this Hulk that they've given us so far. And that's just my personal opinion. These guys may totally disagree with me. So that's why I don't think they do it. Schnepp, how would you handle it?
Yeah, there was a long run that Peter David did where the Hulk was like not just the Mr. Fix-It, but just an intelligent Hulk where he could just have complete conversations, but he was like a giant green dude. And I found myself, even though it was really well written, I didn't like those Hulks. I still like not the Bill Bixby Hulk where the Hulk is just like, and it's a story of the week where it's like, and he's walking away after he smashes somebody's general store and somebody's like, the Hulk is here. And then that guy's chasing after him. That was like a every week type thing. And he still never fought another monster. I think he fought a bear in one of them. Anyway,
how sad is that piano music, by the way?
I know, it is really sad. I think they brought that back in one of the Edward Norton Hulk. But anyway, if they made a Hulk movie, I would love for them to continue with the Mark Ruffalo Hulk. I would love for them to continue on with Bruce Banner, and perhaps, like, I know they had it in the second Hulk. They had the Abomination. They also started to say the leader was, possibly going to be grown from some of the same blood serum. I think that's where a Hulk movie should go, is more Hulks. You should have the Red Hulk, the Blue Hulk, a bunch of Hulks. I mean, I think that, and Banner trying to, as when he turns into the Hulk, try to get some of his intellect into the Hulk. I think that would be how you would begin the standalone Hulk movies, experimentation with Stark, trying to figure out a way is like, when I turn into this rage monster, can I keep part of my brain a little more? They're already using Black Widow to do certain things.
Yeah.
And, so they're trying to come up with ways to get that going. But I think that's the only way you would make an actual 2-hour movie. You have to have the Hulk have some level of sentience other than just Hulk smash.
Well, and I think they've been doing that in movies too. There is more of a connection now between, Banner and Hulk. You can see that in the films. But I'll to contradict what I said earlier, the one way you could make it work where you have more of Banner's intelligence in the Hulk and stuff like that is if you go World War Hulk and Planet Hulk. I don't think Marvel's going to do it, but if they did, that's a way it could work. Anyway, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say Planet Hulk as well, but the other thing is what they were doing so far in every movie, especially Ultron, was the evolution of Hulk. You do see him start to realize things, and he's able to process, except for parts that he can't. But he's processing more. And Banner is a scientist, is trying to find a way to make that work. So I don't want to see him, because I already have Beast in X-Men. I don't need to see
intelligent.
I don't need to see that. I don't really want to see that.
Plus, it's boring. Yeah,
it is boring. I want to see him smashing stuff, doing this where he loses control sometimes. He's a rage monster. But I think the thing is that Marvel has been so scared with the Hulk movies is because the Ang Lee Hulk we know was atrocious. And then I actually really liked the Edward Norton Hulk a lot. But it didn't do great. But it also, to be fair to that movie, it wasn't in the boom. It was just getting started, the Marvel boom.
Yes. Right.
So they haven't had a chance to put it out there during this boom. And now that he is one of these main characters in the Avengers, I'd like to see what happens. And maybe if you put him in Planet Hulk, because you can do that. It's not as outrageous anymore if you would have done it like 3-4 years ago. Why is he going to space? Well, the Guardians are out in space.
Right.
So maybe there could be, I don't know. I think it could be pretty interesting.
I would like to see an element of Planet Hulk. I'm not the big lover on Planet Hulk. I think it's like that kind of battle world stuff gets really boring to me. So hopefully they're going to handle all that in Infinity Wars and make it exciting and not. I just don't feel like Planet Hulk could do as much as, say, having a Red Hulk introduced and having these kinds of multiple Hulks on Earth. That's frightening. That's more frightening than having some weird planet with a bunch of dumb aliens than having like 7 Hulks on Earth destroying stuff.
Okay, I will say this. I will say this. If you look, Marvel has already shown they're not tied to the comic book canon. They find narrative ways to work around things, pick up the pieces that they like. You do that. This could work, I think. You find a reason, the death of Betty Ross. We talked about this on Mailbag the other day or something like that. You find a reason, the death of Betty Ross, and maybe Hulk holds the world government responsible. Maybe Bruce holds the Avengers responsible, whatever. You find a narrative way to bypass Planet Hulk, and you go straight to a World War Hulk, where now you're in a world where you have a Bruce Banner is in charge of Hulk, intelligent Hulk, who's just decided, I'm going to lay waste to everyone and everything. There's a movie. I mean, there's a movie you could have there where it's got to be like the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe against, Hulk, and Hulk is going to have some guys that come to his side for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and in the graphic novels, those are other gladiators from Planet Hulk, but you find a way around that. Maybe he gets Abomination working for him now or something like that. Right. That could be frightening.
Or the leader.
Or the leader or something.
It'd be crazy.
All right, what's next? Last question.
When Tana writes, Mad Max just making $44 million opening weekend. How much exactly does it need to make at the box office for WB to make another one?
Well, I mean, the first question we have to ask is, does Miller want to do another one? I think he does. I think he is interested in doing it, and I would love to see him do another one. Mad Max I think we all understand, Mad Max has to be profitable, first of all. First and foremost, it's got to be profitable for them to turn on the green light to do another one. Because this was one of those movies where it didn't end, where you just got to do another one. It ties everything up very nicely at the end if you need to. The movie costs $150 million to make. I'm going to go out on a ledge and say they probably spent about $50 million on marketing. This is a guess, but that from seeing how much marketing I've seen, my guess is going to be around $50 million, which brings you up to about $200 million. The share of the box office in North America is roughly 1/3 of the box office stays with theaters. That means you have to have a $300 million box office, because minus 1/3, that takes you down to 200. So to break even, they've got to make $300 million bucks. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say $300 million. I don't even think this is a movie that they need to make big profit. I think if they can even just break even, I think they know the critical word of mouth has been good. The fan word of mouth has been great. If they can do another one, it'll do just as well or better. So I'm going to say it needs to make $300 million, which I think it will. Anyway, Christian, what do you think?
I think about 300 is correct, and I think it will. And I think they're going to do it because I know Charlize Theron in I can't remember what interview it was, but she's like, if we're lucky enough to make more of these, like she's excited to make more. Yeah. And I think that there's more stories to be told. And I think they signed on for another one, maybe.
I'm sure they've signed them all.
I thought so. I read something where Tom Hardy's on to do Max again. So I certainly hope that we see another one. And I don't know if I'd want to see one without Miller. I know he's 70 years old, but I want to see him do it. George Miller is the star of Mad Max.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He is. So,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, personally, like seeing this, and it was such a victory for me to see a great Mad Max movie. I still stick with my 10 out of 10, even having seen it 6 months ago. So I was very, very happy to see the critical response, because up until that point, like I told you guys, and I was like, I tell my friends, and everyone was like, well, we'll have to see it. And most of my friends are like, it was incredible. So it was like, I'm happy that they had the same kind of feeling and experience that I had. When it comes to money, I'd love it to make money for the studio. That's important, so that they feel, vindicated. Like, hey, we took a chance on this property that was 30 years old. They can't obviously wait 30 more years, because that means Miller will be 100 years old. Right. But they're going to have to jump on it sooner than later. I know that WB is courting Miller to come back to Justice League. I mean, I know that that's happening. So we'll see what happens with Miller might be tied up with another franchise for 6 more years. So that puts you at a weird point in time to jump back into Mad Max 8 years from now, and then 2 more years of, so then we're talking about a sequel 10 years later. So they're going to have to get on it, and they're going to have to get on it quick. And if they are going to get on it, I would suggest that they shoot back-to-back sequels, if they are going to actually stay in the world of the Road Warrior, just go ahead and get those 2 movies. But look at it this way. It took all these years. It took many years for George Miller to even get an idea to want to do another Mad Max movie. And he's even said this. He was just walking along the street and this idea hit him. And then him and this guy, Brendan McCarthy, who's a well-known comic book artist who also worked with George previously on other projects, spent all this time storyboarding the ideas. So basically they were working from not even a finished script, but like this giant, massive amount of amazing storyboards, so that kind of thing takes so much time that then to just jump into a sequel without all that like origin building, birthing process. Unless we've already got 3 scripts in the can, because it's been 30 years, they could already have all this stuff set up and ready to go.
Plus, it's been so many years since they were just working on this one that who knows what he was jotting down in notebooks.
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
Absolutely.
So for all we know, it's like, no, they're already working on it. 2 and 3.
Now, just to confirm something, you heard that Miller's being courted. Now, just to direct DC cinematic films or actual Justice League, because Zack Snyder's already signed to direct Justice League Part 1 and 2.
DC cinematic films.
Okay, because you said Justice. I just want to make sure we're
right. Yeah. I mean, and even though Zack Snyder is signed on to do Justice League, that doesn't have to necessarily be that case. He could move over to Man of Steel 2.
Right.
So,
all right, folks. Well, listen, that'll do it for us for this installment of AMC Mail Talk. Movie Talk. It's Monday, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video, and you'll find a link to our podcast feed. And don't forget, click the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. I want to thank, first of all, the guy sitting at the table with me, fresh back from Atlantic City, Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me at Twitter, Instagram, at John Schnepp, and at TDOSLWH. I'll be in London next week at the MCM London Comic-Con, May 22nd and 23rd. Get your tickets right now, you UK sweaties. I think we sold out Saturday, so there's only, 40 tickets left for Friday. Get those tickets right now, and I'll see you there.
And of course, Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you online?
Instagram and Twitter at Christian Harloff. Make sure you're watching AMC Jedi Council. It's every Thursday. Hashtag AMC Jedi Council. Get your questions on the air, please.
And, of course, our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, at Ashley Mova. Happy Monday, guys.
And, hey, guys, don't forget, you can also follow us on Instagram. We've got an Instagram account now, so just follow us at AMC Movie News on Instagram. You can find me on the various social media networks. Just follow me on Twitter or on Facebook at John Campia. So that'll do it for us, guys. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.